Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we're going to have a great show with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you for being here.
Greetings and blessings, y'all, after Thanksgiving again. And we're hoping that you're doing as well as possible and that you're hunkered down because it's probably chilly wherever you are.
Yeah, actually, tomorrow it's supposed to warm up into the 40s, so I'm excited about that. Can't go wrong. Dogs are whining back there, so if you hear them, that's what they're doing. They're whiners. Anyhow.
And as long as they don't leave their bottles laying around.
I know. Yeah, Lucky says I can't find the show. I see there's nobody out there. I don't know why it didn't send the notification. YouTube is shadow banning me.
Well, I got mine.
Yeah, I didn't get one on my phone. Yeah, nope. No notification. Oh, there. I think that was it. I think, yep, that just come through. Yep, notification just came through. So how about that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're going to have a great show anyway. But tonight we're going to talk about the captives. Yeah, Lucky. The things are running a little bit behind today, I guess. I don't know why, but not my fault because I don't run YouTube. Anyway, we're going to talk about native captives. What happened to the native captives? What do you think happened to the native captives?
They got tied up.
Yes, they did. And, you know, it wasn't fun to be a native captive. There was a lot of torture if you were a guy. The women, not so much. Of course, I'm going to share the screen, and we're gonna look at some of these native captives and talk about. Come on. Now we know as a whole that the Indians, the Native Americans, whatever you want to call them, either way, it's all the same. They, swiped from other tribes. You know what I'm saying? They went to other tribes, swiped women, traded women, killed their enemies, tortured their enemies slowly. It was so they could die a good death. And it was for the man who got captured. It was his duty to not cry out in pain like a little girl. Oh, you're hurting me. It was his duty to say, I don't care how much you torture me. I am strong right to the end. Even though he knew death was coming, no matter what they did to him, some of them, they would, cut him open and pull their guts out in front of him and watch him die. And the guy, what a horrible death. You know what I'm saying? Cut their fingers, the toes off, cut their nose, their ears, and just slice them, dice them. Oh, man, stake them out on the grounds, things like that.
And skin them alive.
Yeah, skin them alive. Of course, we all know they would scalp you alive, too. Indian captives. Here, we'll just read some of this. The treatment accorded captives was governed by ethical concepts that went hand in hand with a clan, Gentile, and other blood-related organizations of the Native American society. But from the members of its own group, or whatever was considered such, certain ethical duties were extracted of the tribe members, which could not be neglected without destroying the fabric of society or outlawing its transgressor. Towards other clans or other bands, the same tribe action were also governed by well-recognized customs, usages, which had developed over hundreds of years. But remote bands of tribes or good relations, we assured, only by some formal peacemaking ceremony. Peace this kind was very tenuous. However, especially where there had been a long-standing feud that might be broken in an instant toward a person belonging to a tribe with which there was neither war nor peace, the attitude was governed largely by the interest of the moment, meaning we can cut your fingers or your toes off or just be really nice to you. In such cases, the virtues of the clan, the organizations of peacemaking factors made themselves evident. For the stranger belonged to a clan represented in the tribe he was among. The members of that clan usually greeted him as a brother, extended their protection over him. Others' defense was for strangers was with what civilized people is of the best guarantees against war, the fear of disturbing or deflecting trade. So you don't want to upset the trade. If he brought among the certain desired commodities, the first impulse might be to take these from him by force and seize or destroy his person. But it would quickly be seen by wiser heads that the source of further supplies of this kind might thereby be imperiled, if not entirely cut off, if nothing were to be had from the stranger. He might be entirely ignored. And finally, the existence of higher ethical feeling towards strangers, even when there was apparently no self-interest in being served or extended. So they knew the gravity, I should say, of trade. So if you're going to trade with, a stranger or neighbor, you don't capture him and, kill him, destroy, torture him, because he's going to go back and tell everybody else, and nobody will ever trade with you again. And that's pretty much the half of it, because you do that too many times, and then nobody wants to come around you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or trade with you.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can't trade with other people, well, so he had to pick. I guess he had to pick his battles, but the most captives were taken. The men were usually killed, or they were captured and tortured. The women, they were captured as prizes, because in the tribe, the women did most of the work, and they were really easily pushed around. And so women captives, especially white women captives, were held as a prize. So as you can see, they were happy to catch the woman. But like this gal here, this was Oatman, her name was, if you want to look it up. And she, I think it was Oatman. He says Laura. Anyway, she was tortured, or she got left scars on her face, as you can see. She was captured, and she did escape or was traded for. A lot of times, these Indians, they would capture people, especially women or children, and then they would hold them for like ransom, like a kidnapping. They were like the first kidnappers. Hey, I got a white person here. If you want, you can buy them. Here, $5, and I'll they're all yours. And they did that a lot.
And $5 was a lot back then.
Well, you know what I mean. They would go.
I'm kidding. That was a bad joke.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it was kind of, $5 is probably a lot of money, considering that things didn't cost much. So as you can see here, here's the tribe. The women are doing this a lot of work. They were kept on the tribes, etc., etc. Being captured, as you can see, the Indians would come, burn the houses down, and the women, kill the men and the women and children. As you can see in this picture, they're taking the supplies. They ain't letting them burn. And they're having a good old time as the woman and the child is running away. In which I'm sure they would capture her soon. And as you can see here, they're killing the men, capturing the women and children, taking the cows, ransacking the wagon. If you were a man or a young man or a boy, you didn't have much chance of survival being captured. Women, on the other hand, they would capture them if the children were too loud, crying too much, or disruptive. They would just kill them too. And you can see this one over here. Looks like they're chopping her hair off or something, and they're really not dressed like Indians here. They looks like they got caveman suits on. And of course, once the white woman was brought to the Indian tribe, all the other women would, because remember, they live in like a clan or a group housing, and the European people weren't like that. You're all individuals. You're going to live with your family in a house. Women and the wife, the father, the children, and so forth. And when you're brought here, you got these women fawning all over you. Let's see your hair. Ours are all black. You got blonde hair. You got white skin. It's soft. Ours is rough and tough because we've been out in the sun working all day. I mean, that must have been quite the scary experience.
And red hair as well.
Yes, red hair as well. And you can see in this picture that, here you got the Indian guy. He's killing the man. The woman, she's running for her life. And they will probably spare her and her young child, or at least her, and take her captive. But when these people were being captured, the women did fight back. They did fight back. They were not helpless women either. They were fighters. As you can see by this, here's this woman. She's going to chop this Indian. The husband's probably dead here. You got this Indian trying to stop her, and you got this lady with, I don't know what's in her hand, but she's going to hit him in the head, I mean, it's they were to be reckoned with. These women were. Usually, when the tribes captured women, the tribe didn't live just down the street. It didn't matter what you were wearing. Back in the day, remember these women? They would have these big, giant hoop dresses on, like these ladies. They didn't care. They were marching you bare, as you can see by this lady. She's barefoot, and they were going to march you through the woods barefoot for miles and miles and miles. It was not a fun process. And you can see these ladies do not look like they are hard worker women. They look more like prissy fancy women. And of course, you have some where they escape. This is Hannah Dunstan escapes from capture by Native Americans. Look at, she's in the Indian village. She's stealing a canoe with probably her mother and her young son or something. And I didn't look this story up, but there's a lot of stories where somebody would figure out some way to escape, and then they did. And you can see here the Indians, something English captives. Yeah, they would see, this is a part where they would capture the children. And then, of course, and the women, you can see a woman back here, and here's the children, and they're bringing them back to trade them off. Hey, look, we got some women, we got some children, and you trade us these for whatever, something, some blankets and horses, or pots and pans, or clothing. Remember, cloth was a very
prized commodity.
Yes, the clothing, cloth. Same pic. This is the same picture, but you can see a better detail on this one. And you see the terror in these kids' eyes. Look at this guy. He's looking at it like, oh my gosh. This woman over here, she's giving that look like, oh, I can't believe it. I can't wait till it's my turn to be traded. But that was just their way. Oh, I think we did that picture already. You know, and brought, especially look at the blonde hair, and brought to the, you know, the teepee, and here she is laying on the floor. She's a captive. You can see her arm, how it's bleeding. She must be tied up. See the rope around her waist, and she's tied. She's tied. It's like she's got two different shoes. Here's a barefoot, and here's a shoe. You know, so
Yeah, but zoom back in on her face. She looks dead.
well, yeah. Well, I don't think
I
she's
mean, the
dead.
pallor on her face compared to her arm.
Yeah. Well,
She,
maybe she's very weak. That's why she's laying there on the floor.
yeah, but
I,
you know me, I'm always picking out things that I notice.
well, yeah, and I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, it kind of looks like she's dead, but I think it's given her the illusion, you know, us the appearance of that she's really weak and faint, and that you know, here otherwise if she was dead, this guy wouldn't be just sitting there. He'd be like, ah, she's dead. What the hell? What are you doing? Looking at a dead body there? You know, she wouldn't be in the teepee or nothing then either. And she's got her legs crossed. She looks like she's, you know, I mean, she was dead. She wouldn't have her legs crossed. They'd be laid out. I think, you know. But you can see they captured one blonde hair. You know, it's kind of a thing. Here's another one. You know, captured a woman. Always capturing the women. Like I said, if you were a guy, this is a woman. She was captured with her infant there, and you can see she's breastfeeding right there in that picture. Quanah Parker was one of those children. He was you know, he was that Comanche who was you know, from Cynthia Ann Parker, who was a white woman captured by the Comanche back in the day, and she had a child, Quanah Parker, who grew up to be a chief. And you can see by this guy here, he's going to get the hatchet. He's trying to stop him from, you know, taking his woman. I don't know. It looks like there's some stuff going on in the background here too, you know. But I think he's a goner. Um, yeah, and look at the size of this Indian guy. How big he is compared to the European guy. I mean, he's huge.
Yeah.
He is a huge guy. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, it is from the numerous accounts of white settlers who had been taken by Indians that the principal immediate hardships they endured were due to the rapid movements of their captors in order to escape pursuers and the continual threats to which they were subjected to. These threats were not usually carried out, however, unless they attempted to escape. They were unable to keep up with the band, or unless the band was pursued too hotly. Each person taken was considered the property of the one who first laid hands on him, and his character of this individual had much to do in determining the extent of his hardships. When two or more claimed a prisoner, he was sometimes kept by a conjoining, but sometimes they settled the controversy by torturing him to death on the spot. The rapid threat of war partly bore partially hard upon the women and children, yet a certain amount of consideration was often shown them. Sometimes the male captives were allowed to help them along. Sometimes they were drawn on an improvised sled or travois, and if there were horses in the party, these might be placed at their disposal. And one instance was recorded which a child of a female captive was carried by her master for several days. It was worthy of remark that the honor of the white woman was almost always respected by her captors among the tribes of the east of the Mississippi River. But west of that limit, on the plains, in the Columbia River region, and in the Southwest, the contrary was often the case. And you can see here, I didn't want to show the whole picture, It was pretty brutal. But they get this guy here. He's staked out, and this guy's standing guard over him, and they're torturing him in the sun. See how fast he can die. You know? Ugh. Among these possessed clans, the adoption of captured women was of special importance, as it has often resulted in the formation of a new clan from their descendants. Such, no doubt, was the origin of the Zuni and the Mexican clans of the Navajo. The Ute clan of the latter was recruited by a systematic capture and purchase of Ute girls, undertaken with the object of supplying the tribe with good basket makers. Among the Plains Indians, captives, especially children, were sometimes taken for the express purpose of being trained to the performance of certain ceremonial duties. Besides the number of white persons carried away by Indians and subsequently ransomed, it is evident from all accounts that have reached us by many English and French and Spanish descent were taken into the tribe of their captors, and either because carried off when very young or because they were developed a taste for their new life and they never returned. Some of these even rose to high positions, as in the case of a Frenchman who became the chief of the Atacapa of a Mexican who is recorded as the most prominent and successful war chief of the Comanche. In 1855, and another Mexican, still a man of influence among the Zuni, top chief or Comanche chief Quanah Parker, I was just talking about him, was the son of a captive American woman. During this time, the confederated tribes of the Comanche, the Kiowa Apache continued to hold at least 50 adopted white captives, and it's probable that fully 1/3 of the whole population had a traceable percentage of captive blood. The same was possibly true in nearly equal measure to the Apache of Arizona. From Oregon to South Alaska, a different treatment of captives was brought about by the existence of slave classes. So not only did you get captured, but you were a slave. And since slaves were the most valuable property a man could have, the lives of those taken in war were always spared unless such captives had committed some great injury to the victorious tribe that prompted immediate revenge. After this, they might be killed at any moment by their masters. By such a fate seldom overtook them until they grew too old to work. See? So just like it is today, you get too old to work. To here, they fire you, and then you live on the curb of the street. There, they just took you out back and knocked you in the head. Unless their masters became involved in a property contest, or the people of another town from which they had been taken had committed deportation. So if your neighbor goes ahead and shoots at the Indians, they just kill you because you're one of them. Among the Tlingit, however, slaves were killed during mortuary feasts, and the bodies of the slaves were thrown into the holes dug for the posts of a new house. Slave women, especially if they were known to be of noble descent, sometimes married their captors and became free. For prominent Haidara clans, and one clan among the Timishan are said to have originated from marriages of this kind, while the other prominent Haidara clan was called the Slaves, though it is impossible to say whether they were descended from slaves or else. So look at that. Wow. The Tlingit. You were a slave? We're having a feast. Oh, man. I'm going to die tonight. Ain't that terrible? Throw the body in a post hole. And so you got what? Your corner post is a dead slave. How terrible is that? You can see this. We got women and children. Like I said, they like the women and children. Of course, the children would grow up knowing only one thing. If you fought back like this guy, he was probably a fighter, killing him. saving the women, easy to handle there. And I think that is it for my deal. But anyhow, the point is that, when you're captured, it's saying you fight back too much, we're going to kill you. If your neighbors come to fight, we're going to kill you. You're going to be a slave until you're wore out. You can't work no more, and then we're going to kill you. Unless you're a woman and you're good looking or something, and you can work hard and you get married into, then you become free. Ain't that wonderful? You lucky women. But what do you have to say about all that?
I don't know whether it was better to be a man or a woman,
Well, now I know why. If you were a man, you were just going to keep on fighting, because if you give up, they're gonna kill you. They're gonna scalp you. They're gonna kill you. And if you get captured, they're gonna just torture you, make you into a slave, and then they're gonna kill you. But I guess in their respect, it ain't like they could lock you up in a prison. Like, oh, we're gonna capture all these people here. We're gonna take them back to our tribe where we can't even feed our people. I mean, we got to look at this from their point of view. And,
right.
I mean, what are we going to do with these people once we take them back to the tribe?
And, thinking about it, it's like, what if you survived their torture?
Yeah.
Well, that would say, well, that's, that's one strong son of a gun,
Well,
maybe we should keep this one because he survived, and there's something spiritual about that, because it's like that means that he was an exceptional warrior somehow. So, but hey, he survived. Well, we'll get him to carry heavy stuff for us,
Well, wait a minute. Stop right there. Remember, I read a story a number of episodes back where the guy, he did survive. Remember? And he survived, and they tortured him. He had to run the gauntlet. That was what it was. It was running the gauntlet. And he was a young man, and he was tough, and he ran the gauntlet. I forget how many times, 10 times or something. But every time he survived, so they would catch him again, let him heal up, and make him do it again, because he was so brave and strong. It's like, because to them, I mean, I think it was
a game,
like a game. Yeah, like, what are we going to do with this guy? Look, he survived. Well, let's do it again. I mean, he's a tough one. Let's see how much he can endure. Because I don't think in their mind, I mean, of all the stories I read, I think in their mind, survival was good, but you're gonna die in the end. We can't let you live. If you do, we'll cure you up. We'll heal your wounds, and then you can do it again and again and again until you do die, until you do give up. I think there was a lot. Like the guy laying on the ground. We've seen that picture of him here. He's staked out. It's like, well, how long could you stay like that and then not die? And then if you don't die, what do they do next? Burn you at the stake or make you run through a hot fire ants or something just to get their willies off? I'm not sure. So, there's something to it all, but I think
let me interject this, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there were the extreme circumstances, and I think there were times when there was like, no, we tortured you a little bit, but we just going to let you go. Or, I think that I don't think that every Native American person was a savage.
No.
And I do think that there was compassion among the native peoples. So I think it depended, if you were caught, after just killing all the people in the village or something, then we're gonna leave you on the side of the mountain over there, and we're gonna strip the skin off you. You
Yes.
know. But if you were somebody that was wounded or something and you survived, well, I might not kill you. I might just leave you alone, to your own devices. So I think a lot of it depended on the circumstance, really.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it did, and even at the Battle of Little Bighorn, for instance, I think it was that battle, or maybe no, not Little Bighorn. There was another battle. I forget which battle it was, and the bugler. I remember the story of the bugler. All the warriors were, the cavalry was fighting, and maybe it was the Fetterman fight. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but anyway, the bugler, he was fighting so bravely, trying to hit the warriors with his bugle. I mean, they killed him in the end, but in the end, they honored him by not scalping him or stripping him of his clothes or entrailing him or desecrating his body. They left him as he was, just because he acted bravely. And so I think there was honor among them. There was their own code. And I think you're right. Maybe there was, they obviously took care of the women, because, you got to have them there to work. You can't torture them and cut their arms and hands off or things like that, if you can't work them. But like I said, they don't have jails. They don't have much food. And if you get a strong man in your camp, what do you think he's going to do? You can't leave him tied up forever. And if you let him go, what's the chances he's going to fight back and try to kill somebody?
Right.
So what?
Well, here's something else too. That I think that what happened before the Trail of Tears, and afterwards, the native tribes that were west of the Mississippi, they had a different code of conduct. Also, by that time, after the Eastern had been, pretty much settled by the white man, and whatever treaties or whatever, and the red man's been pushed over to Oklahoma, that the red man had an attitude. Mm-hmm. So it made them more savage than the earlier settlements and with the native folk and so forth. But by the time they got out west, they were really mad. They had a right to be, but they were really mad.
Well, and that's the thing too. You got to remember, by 1854 or 55, most of the Indians on the east of the Mississippi were under treaties, in reservations, or pushed across into the west side of the Mississippi. And at that point, all the tribes that were living on the west side of the Mississippi had to move more west because the plains weren't really inhabited. And so they were moving into other Indian territories. So you're bunching all these people up. And, because the Sioux Indians actually they came from Minnesota area. And all of a sudden here they live in the Dakotas because they were pushed across the plains due to other Indians being pushed into their area, the white man coming. And it's like, pack your things, we're going west. And of course, once you hit the plains, there was that barrier, you know what I mean? And I think there was that time when the white man said, "The heck with the plains, there's nothing here," and they went across the plains, leaving the Indians alone, kind of, and then went to California where there's trees and woods and mountains, there wasn't a lot of hostile Indians on the West Coast.
At least not that they knew about.
Well, there was the Modocs over there, but for the most part, the Spanish had already inhabited California for a good 100 years or better. They had tamed them all down, built cities and stuff, and then when we had the American-Mexican War there and chased them all out, the Spanish left, and there was just the Mexicans, and there you either become American and you were civilized. So the West Coast was already set up by 100 years or so. Whatever was there, the Spanish had conquered it. There just wasn't a lot, and there wasn't a lot of harmful tribes there either. There was, but there wasn't. Not like the Plains Indians, not like the Comanche. The horse societies were deadly. Even when Custer was out there, he said, listen, an Indian on a horse is deadly, and you better fear him. But you get an Indian on foot, and nothing to worry about. I guess there's something to be said by that.
Well, anybody on foot doesn't have much of a chance versus anything else. But and something else I wanted to bring up is that, back in the day, the folks that were on the east moving west, that Fort Smith, Arkansas, was the end of civilization for a long time. And so when you left the Arkansas border and headed west, you were on your own,
Yeah.
And and that was one reason why they moved most of the native folk on the East Coast over just west of there into Oklahoma, because that was considered, wilderness.
Yeah. Let's see here. F Kitty's, she's got some good points tonight. She's a rolling tonight. Give her a big thumbs up. East of the Rockies, the western tribes of the coast were usually small bands. In Washington, the Yamakas were pretty big, as well as the fierce break-off of the Plains tribes. Yeah, well, that's where the, what's his name was up there? Chief Joseph was up there leading the Indians up that way. So, like,
the Nez Perce.
Nez Perce, that's the one. Thank you. There was tribes up in that area that were pretty good. They were getting along with people, though, for the most part, until too many came and pushed them out and said, "Hey, you got the best land in the Walla Walla Valley. We want that for farmland." And of course, it's like, okay, well, we'll give you a little bit. Next thing you know, we're taking it all. You got to go to this reservation in Idaho, but we don't live in Idaho. That's the problem. They were the white man had come in, the Europeans had come in, and they were literally picking out areas that they didn't want. And they were saying, here, we don't want this area. You can have it. There's nothing there, like Oklahoma. And we'll just put them all there because that's a crappy place to be. And that was good for the white man, but for the Indian or Native American, it wasn't good for him, because he's like, I live on the plains, or I live in the mountains with these big giant trees, and you're telling me to go to a deserted area that it's got nothing, it's dry and it's plains and there's nothing there that I know. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. I can imagine how hard it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, when you look on the map, there were a Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, is south of, south of the Black Hills too. But what's that? You went through the Badlands. It's
Yes, the
south
back.
of the Badlands. And if you've been to the Badlands and in that area, there is nothing there. you know, I mean, the ground is hard. There is nothing there. And so they moved all these Plains Indians to a rocky outcrop, I mean, and said, okay, live here.
Yes,
I mean,
that,
there are a lot of other places in South Dakota they could have moved them, but no, they moved them to I think, one of the worst places in South Dakota.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. Um, like I said, they picked out the worst land, and then they said, you know what? Nobody wants to live there. You guys can live there. It's all yours. We'll section off, thousands of acres for you, and have fun with it. And of course, they're like, what can we do here? I mean,
what are we going to do with this? Right.
yeah, there's nothing to do. This isn't where I came from, areas where there was big trees or plains filled with buffalo as far as the eye can see. And then you send me here where, there's some lizards or, there's some cactus or maybe just some rabbits running around. And then
It's not even good grazing land,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so there you're sitting there going, what do I do? And the government's saying, don't worry, we'll give you some food rations. Here. She said, Katie says, peaceful protest going around. Burnt down the empty remains, old fort protesting rotten food rations. Yeah, they gave them, the crappiest food. Oh, we got some extra corn. Yeah, it's kind of rotted, but you can have it. We got some old beef cows that are half dying and sick. You can have them too. I mean, they really got cheated.
Badly.
Yes, they did. But I guess that's what the conqueror does. We have something to learn from all of this, don't we? When a conquering force comes in, they conquer people. And that's when we have to face the fact that they were conquered, killed off, and their land was taken, because you can't, just like in any war, you're there to take the spoils of the war. And the spoils of the war were the buffalo, that was the land, the minerals, all of those things were the spoils of the war.
And you know what? I think that's one of the things. There are a lot of white people that hate the native peoples to this day. And I think that one of the reasons is because the white people feel like, look, we whooped your ass. We beat you. Mm-hmm. So what do you got a reservation. So what? But we whooped you. We are the conquerors. So why should the United States give you anything? We beat you. To the point, we conquered you. Yeah. So I think there are white people to this day that's like, why should the native peoples have any kind of rights whatsoever? Because they all want to, they want their tribal rights and so forth. And if they were true Americans, they wouldn't care about tribal rights. They wouldn't care about this other stuff. They'd be real Americans. And I think, quote, real Americans are going, well, we conquered your ass. You should do what we say because we conquered you.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, for instance, we're talking about lately in the news, it's talking about war and stuff. We'll just use the example of Russia. And for instance, nothing against Russians, they kind of, they decide that they're going to take Alaska back, and they fight for Alaska, and they take Alaska back, and the people that live there, what are they going to do? Say, oh, we're going to round up those Americans, and we're going to put them on reservations, and this is 500 acres you guys can live on and do whatever you want. And since we took all your land, we're going to give you some food and water and, blah, blah, blah. You're conquered and stuff. No. You know what they're going to do? They're going to say, you need to integrate with our society or we kill you. They're not going to take prisoners and say, oh, we're going to just take you, lock you up. We're going to make you slaves. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make you slaves, or you can integrate. You're going to have these choices. And if you fight back, you're going to die. That's the only things to it. But you're conquered. We're taking your land. Your houses are going to be burnt down. We're going to build our houses here. We're going to take our minerals. We're going to cut down the trees, or we're going to plant the trees, one or the other. And where you're living, you can't live no more. A Russian guy is going to live there now. Am I wrong? Or what do you think they would do?
I don't think Russia wants Alaska.
No, I'm just saying.
I know. I'm kidding. Yeah. No, it always goes to the conqueror.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
what would they do with the American people that are living there?
They would probably say, learn Russian.
Yeah, that's what I say. You integrate with us. Or you think they're going to cut out a chunk of that land and say, here's your reservation. Here's the American reservation. No, they're going to say, we conquered. We're taking all the land. You're integrate, or here, we'll put you on a ship and you can go back to America over there to the States. We didn't conquer the States. You got choice. You can leave or you can stay. That's it. And if you fight us, you're going to die. That's it. I mean, I don't see anything that doesn't point in that direction. That's the way I see it. I mean, I could be wrong. If anybody disagrees with me, well, let me know what you think, because that's what I imagine. Because we were nice enough, like you said, to put them Native Americans on some reservations. Say, we're having a little sympathy for you. We're gonna. Well, we conquered you, but we're going to give you some land. Right? We could have said, no, you're not getting any land. You're not going to get food. You're not going to get water. You're going to have to become Americans. You're going to have to learn the language. You're going to have to buy a house and do like all the other people, raise a cow or a chicken or plow the field and plant some corn or wheat or whatever you got to do. But, we're not giving you a chunk of land and then feeding you and doing all these things, right?
Right. And the only thing that saved the natives that got moved to Oklahoma, and folks might not agree with me, but it was because of the Constitution of the United States. Mm. And you say, well, what, Hawkeye, what the hell you mean by that? This is what I mean. Because of the clause that all men were created equal, that they are endowed by their creator. So there were too many people in the United States at the time of Andrew Jackson when he ordered the roundup of all the natives. They didn't shoot them, kill them, or otherwise mass murder them because there were too many people that would have mass murdered him. Mm-hmm. Even though they were native folks, and there were too many people that said, wait a minute, these folks here that you're rounding up and sending to Oklahoma, that they were neighbors of mine. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, like rounded up the Jews, is like, wait a minute, they were my neighbors. Now all of a sudden they're not here anymore. So, but I think that's what saved the native folks, and that nobody knew. Say, well, they're rounding them up and moving them to Beverly, in Oklahoma. Yeah. So, and nobody was paying attention to how many were dying along the way or what the conditions were to move them to Oklahoma. And so it was after the fact that people were saying, what? Yeah. You just left women and children to die in the snow? You just left the elderly? What? And they were like, well, we did the best we could with what we had. And, so there you go. And they're moved now. Don't worry about it. So so that was a way to get rid of them without just outright murdering them. Well, they died along the way. And, you know.
And I think you're right. F. Kitty knows. And I've read this before. There was definitely some social pressure back in the East not to look like monsters. And she's right, because I've read this many times before, that because, you know, the East was getting so citified, and, you know, they didn't see Indians anymore, that when the Indians came through, you know, and they seen the cities and all of this stuff, it was so modern. They looked like spectacles, like, oh, look, it's an Indian. Let's go get our picture taken with them. You know, they had no fear of them, because the red man had been moved so far removed from that civilization that it was almost incomprehensible for the white man at that point to look at the Indian and say, oh, he's such a savage, he's going to kill me. And then the savage at the same time was saying, oh my God, this isn't even, wow, this used to be woods, and where are the buffalo here, and where are the, oh my God, you got ships as big, canoes as can put hundreds of men in, and buildings as tall as the mountains. And, you know, I read the things, and when they got back, they're telling it, and nobody would believe them, because they couldn't comprehend it. Neither could, I suppose, the people back east comprehend that the Indians could do such terrible things to the settlers going out west. That's why I think the settlers were going, because, hey, you know, it's all peaches and cream. I've never seen anybody get scalped before, right?
Yep.
So anyway, F. Kitty says, sorry for taking over chat. You know what? Here's the thing. F. Kitty, you're doing a great job. Thank you. I appreciate when somebody's passionate about something and they know things. And whatever you said, a lot of this stuff is absolutely true. She says, sorry.
Good information. Good information is always welcomed, right?
Yes. The Jesuits. I got a book on the Jesuits. They did. They came over. They took a lot of writing and, you know, things like that. They had tribal reps manifest destiny. Godly. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but that's the whole point. I think the East didn't know what was going on. The West didn't know it. You know, it was two different worlds. Like I said, the east of the Mississippi. You know, these people, I read what they would do. They would load up all their stuff on these wagons and get the women and children their last bit of cash, and they would go to Independence, Missouri, or St. Louis, or, like you said, Arkansas. They would get over there and look out on the plains and go, wow, look, there's nothing out there. We're going to California, you know. And then the march would start, and they would walk and walk and walk and walk, and you're out there in the middle of nowhere. You're kind of getting ready to be picked by the Indians for your stuff, who are out there starving because they had the buffalo were going away, and you're taking over my land. You're shooting the last of my buffalo. You're bringing your cows through, and they're giving diseases to the buffalo, and then, you know, from like where the trail was in any direction for like 5 or 10 miles, these travelers were hunting for all the food, which was, you know, thousands were going across, and there wasn't enough animals to feed everybody. You know, you'd go hundreds of miles without finding a deer.
It was in the beginning.
Well, it was in the beginning, but yeah.
But as time went on, in the first 10 years, you know, there was plenty to go around. But then the poachers started showing up to kill the buffalo on purpose. And then the further the railroads got, and then the more that, you know, there were more people. So in the beginning, it wasn't too bad.
Yes.
Considering how bad it was, you know, 20 years later in the 1860s, 70s, after the Civil War, when the big push really came.
Yes.
and folks were really heading out west. And the natives by that time had started to, because the Civil War had moved west.
Yeah.
And there were folks in Kansas and Texas, and even folks in Arizona and New Mexico, from the Civil War. And but after the war, then them, Johnny Rebs that were displaced. A lot of them, tried to go back south, but that didn't work. So they moved west. Well, by doing so, they also had that warrior. I don't want to say warrior mentality, but they'd been through war. So they were hardened, I guess, in that don't mess with me. I'll just shoot your butt. I ain't going to take none of this mess. I'll just, we'll just have it out right now. So, and because the Southerners had enough of how they felt like they had been mistreated. So now you got some mistreated Southern white men who move out west, where there are a bunch of native folks who feel mistreated by the white people. That's just nothing but, a fiery, explosion. And guess what happened?
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. Lucky said something about the buffalo. The buffalo weren't going away. They were slaughtered. Left to rot. Well, I found out something. So, excuse me. So, back in the day, after the Civil War, now, remember how we talked about tanning buffalo hide was kind of hard? And remember the guy I had on, and he explained about tanning the buffalo hide and all the work, and that the bull buffalo, had such thick hide, it was just almost impossible to do. Well, I was reading the other day that in the right after the Civil War there, or during the Civil War, somewhere, they discovered a new technology on how to tan those difficult to tan buffalo hides. And because before that point, they couldn't tan all the buffalo hides. You just couldn't do it. And there was really not a lot of use for those buffalo hides. But then once they could tan those buffalo hides and make that big thick hide into a thinner hide and get it tanned and everything, they started using those for belts in industry. They made great serpentine belts, and they made great clothing and furniture and stuff like that. So now all of a sudden you had this great way of using all those hides, and that made them really valuable. So right after the Civil War, all these people traveled out that way because they were displaced. Like you said, they were hardened from the war, and they went out west to hunt these buffalo and make a fortune, because now those hides were really valuable. I mean, you didn't have to have somebody there with scrubbing it out by hand and doing all that. So you sent it off, you did the little bit, and then you sent it off to the factory where they processed that big buffalo hide where it couldn't have been done before.
Right. And also, as you mentioned, their industry is amazing in that somebody says, well, we got a bunch of buffalo hides that are really thick. And somebody says, well, you know what? I think I could make some belting with that for machinery. Well, I think, we might not make clothing, but they make really good soles of boots, And so so after a while, they said, wait a minute, an industry was developed after the fact. They said, wait a minute, well, we've been using this kind of leather before. Yeah, but we got this kind. Oh, really? Ooh, okay. Well, then we'll buy that instead. So, and also the fact that they were developing new resources and large, industrial kind of machining thingies to take care of these hides, where somebody out on the plains trying to scrape and do it themselves, that just wasn't working. but also that they were developing, that somebody said somewhere, I need those thick hides.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. They found a way to process those hides and tan them. Whereas before they were just too thick to tan in any good fashion, and then, like you said, hey, we can make soles of shoes out of them, but we can't tan them, effectively. And,
Right.
so yeah, sure, you tanned one hide, but, we can't do it on a giant scale. And when they figured that out, that's when everything kind of fit together, and the buffalo were doomed after that.
Yeah, because just think about the bottoms of shoes. Now they're neoprene and stuff like that. But back in the day, they needed moccasins. You ever had a pair of moccasins? You always, a good pair of moccasins. Nowadays they've got some kind of plastic bottoms on them, but
Yeah.
I have, back in the day, I have sewn moccasins myself. Way back when
there we go. That's perfect example. And then they got the rubber bottom,
Exactly.
But here they are, a little bit of thin leather with a little bit of sheepskin in there or something. It's probably all fake sheepskin crap, and these are just cheapies, But yeah, they got this. So they use very. I don't even know if this is suede. This is probably not even real leather.
But my point, though, is somebody went to a shoe manufacturer and said, I know where to get the kind of, the kind of leather that you need for the bottom of your boots. And they went, what? And he was like, yeah, I got all this and everything. And so, the thicker stuff didn't need near as much tanning because it was going to be used on the bottom of boots. So, but anyway, so, by that time too, there was a lot more people in the United States, even after the Civil War. And there was, there a lot of commodities were needed and necessary,
Yeah.
So because of the war, things that got blowed up and stuff, and so in the reclamation. The folks were coming up with, well, we're going to have new boot manufacturing, and we're going to have this, and so. But anyway, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and Jeannie's right. Some tribes can in ways others don't. But see, a tribe cannot tan on an industrial scale. You got all the women out there, washing and scrubbing with the brains of the thing, to emulsify the leather, and they probably did a really good job. I'm not saying they didn't, but you couldn't do it on a scale to, clothe everybody, or you could make some moccasins, yes, but you couldn't fit everybody's soles of everybody's shoe. You would just be SOL. You'd have 1,000 women out there doing this all day.
And one of the things too is that one of the big murderous things that happened with the buffalo was as the railroad went west, because killing the buffalo didn't do any good if you couldn't get the hides back east. Well, but when the railroads came in, they were taking hides out literally by the train load full. If you can imagine that. And just leaving the meat to rot.
Yes. And well, that's the thing, because there's so many. It's like, hey, the hide's worth something, but we don't know what to do with the meat. We can't preserve it. So chuck the meat, take the hide, and call it a day. And like you're right, the railroads. And the same happened with the cattle industry. You had to have those once the buffalo were gone, the cattle came in, and then you had that cattle drive to where the trains were. And without the trains, you could have a million cows out west, but you couldn't get them into Chicago so they could be shipped around the country. That there's all transportation. If you kill the transportation industry, you slow everything down, because where you live, your area makes one product. Like you're there and you make peanuts there. Like you were telling me, there's peanuts all over the place. Maybe you got pecans, maybe you got some wheat, but you know what you don't have? You don't have any beef, and you got to get your beef from somewhere. but you got a lot of peanuts. You know, so your state is trading cotton and peanuts to North Dakota, where we got a lot of cows, but we can't grow anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you got
We
for
do.
us?
We do have cows here now. We do.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several fields within 2 miles of me that have cows. So it's not that we are cowless, okay?
Well, I'm not
But
saying
we
they're
don't
cows.
have, but most of the herds down here, if you've got 20 cows, that's sizable, because the pasture land is small. So, 20 cows, give or take, but if you find anything more than 20 cows, that's a big herd around here. But there are lots of small herds of cows, right down the road. There's some folks that got probably 15 or 20 cows, and they might have maybe 15 acres of pasture land, So, but we're not cowless, but that's not our main,
No.
crop.
So like out west, I've seen it. Not here in my area. Here they roam, and they're mostly raising Angus, and they raise a lot of calves, which get shipped south to be on those. I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Stockyards or whatever. Well, where they have. I don't know if you ever seen them, but I have. And you go drive by, and there's 10,000 cows there. And they're all, in small pens, and they feed them, and that's all those cows do all day is eat. And you got guys on horseback that ride around there, pushing them from one pen to the other, sorting out sick ones or lame ones or whatever, and doctoring certain ones or whatever. But they're just the big giant feedlots. That's the word I'm looking for. Feedlots of thousands of cows, thousands of beef cows. You can't imagine what it looks like, because until you see it, it just blew my mind. And I've seen a lot of cows, and I'm like, you're driving along and you're like, it just never ends. It just never ends. And all day long, they have semi trucks that come in and just fill those bins with feed all day long. That's it, because there's so many. And they just fill the bins, and the cows eat, and they fill the bins, and the cows eat. But if you can't get a train there or a truck nowadays, what would you do with 10,000 cows? You can't get them out east where you need them. You got to have a train or a truck or some way to get them from one point to the other.
Get along, little doggy.
Yeah. So what do you got for us tonight?
Well, we got us a story. I don't know how long it is. I haven't made it to the end yet. And it's called The Adventures of Yellowbird.
Adventures of Yellowbird. I like it already. Oh, okay. And there we go. Here it is. The Adventures of Yellowbird.
And so some of the characters in our in our story tonight are, of course, Yellowbird, Daddy Longlegs, Inchworm, Mud Turtle, Beaver, Muckworm, the Eagle, the Ancient of Bears, Toad, and Grasshopper. And no, I'm not going to try to pronounce the Indian name for them. My mouth is not working right tonight. Here, let me get a drink of coffee, and we'll start the story. We are, by the way, for those folks who may not know, we're still on the Seneca stories that was, presented by Jay Curtin in 1923. So, a man and his wife and children lived in a little house in the woods. They were destitute and had nothing to eat but the scraps and pieces the man earned in the village. One day the father said to his eldest son, You are old enough now to work. Go to the village and ask the chief if he has anything for you to do. The boy had a little dog that he called Yellowbird. The dog was actually a bird. After he had named the dog, his family called him by the dog's name. The chief of the village was Daddy Longlegs. When the boy asked for work, the chief said, "Stay with me. I will give you work to do." The chief grew so fond of the young man that after a time he gave him his youngest daughter for a wife. One day, Yellowbird said to his wife, "I'm going away for a while. I want to see who is in the world." And starting toward the south, he traveled all day. When night came, he lay down under a tree and slept. Yellowbird traveled 8 days. Then he began to feel weak and hungry. But he was in a forest and there were no signs of anyone living near. So he walked on. After a while, he saw off in the distance a black object. When he came near, he found it was a bear asleep on the ground. Yellowbird had neither a knife nor a bow, but looking around, he saw a heavy stone. He picked it up and creeping near, he threw it at the bear's head. The bear straightened out and died. Then Yellowbird hunted for a piece of flint to skin the bear with. Not finding flint, he took a sharp-edged stone. When he had the skin off, he began to wonder how he could start a fire. He didn't want to eat raw meat. He hunted for a rotten log, and when he found one, he got punk out of it. When he struck stones together till sparks flew. With the sparks, he lighted the punk, and soon he had a good fire. Then he roasted pieces of meat, and he ate heartily. Now Yellowbird made up his mind to gather a pile of wood and stay there in the woods as long as he had anything to eat. He rested a good many days. Then, when nothing was left of the bear, he started on. He had traveled for a long time and was getting weak and hungry when he saw in the distance something that looked as if a tree were on the ground and the roots were sticking up. When near, he saw it was a buck. He killed the buck as he had killed the bear, and making a fire, roasted some of the flesh and ate it. Yellowbird stayed there in the forest till he had eaten the buck. Then he started on. After many days, when he was again getting weak and hungry, he was wondering how he was to get something to eat. He saw a smoke off in the woods. Someone must have a hunting camp there, he thought. When near the smoke, he crept along carefully. Then, not seeing anyone, he went boldly to the fire. Over the fire was a kettle, and in the kettle, bear's meat was cooking. Yellowbird took the kettle off the fire, cooled the meat, and ate all he wanted. Then he hurried on, for he was afraid that when the owner of the meat found it had been stolen, he would track the thief. When night came, Yellowbird lay down under a tree. Soon he heard some dry leaves rattling, and he thought, "The man whose meat I stole is tracking me." The sound came nearer till at last someone stopped by the tree. The young man didn't speak. After a while, a woman said, "Well, Yellowbird, are you going to stay here all night?" "I am," answered Yellowbeard. "I have come to keep you from being lonely." The young man recognized his wife's voice, and he was glad that she had come. I told you, said the woman, that I should follow you. Hereafter I shall be with you. You'll not see me, but when you come to a fire and find food cooking, you must not think that it doesn't belong to you. I shall be the cause of it. I shall be with my Father in the daytime and with you at night. Yellowbird was a great many days' journey from the chief's village, but this woman could travel as fast as thought. Whenever her thoughts went there, there she was. Before daylight, the woman rose and began cooking. When the food was ready, she awakened Yellowbird. They ate together. Then all at once, the woman was gone. Yellowbird traveled till midday. Then he saw a smoke and going toward it, found a fire and cooked food. He ate all he wanted, gave thanks, and traveled on. Just as the sun went down, Yellowbird saw smoke ahead, and soon he came to a small house. Going in, he found a kettle of meat boiling over the fire. The meat wasn't quite cooked, so he sat down and watched it. He thought, maybe this meat belongs to someone else. But when it was done, he took it out of the kettle and cooled it. Just as he was ready to eat, he heard footsteps. Now I'm caught, thought he. He sat with meat in one hand and liver in the other, and he listened. The footsteps stopped outside the door, and a rap came. The man didn't answer. Another rap. He didn't answer. He put the liver and meat into the kettle and crept under a bunk that was there. The skin door was pushed aside, and a woman came in. She laughed and asked, "Why are you afraid of me? I've come to keep you from being lonely." "I wasn't afraid," said Yellowbird, coming from under the bunk. "I saw a mouse and thought I would catch it." They ate and then slept. Before daylight, food was ready. They ate and the woman disappeared. At midday, Yellowbird saw smoke ahead, and when he came to the fire, found food already, hulled corn and venison. He ate, gave thanks, and went on. He didn't know how far or where he was going. At night, he again found a house and food ready. When he was about to eat, someone came to the door. Yellowbird forgot the chief's daughter. He was frightened and thought, "The owner of the house has come. He'll kill me." And taking up a club, he went to the door to hit the man as he came in. When the chief's daughter pushed the door open, Yellowbird threw the club down. The woman said, "I think you were going to kill me." "I was not. I was trying to kill a mouse." They ate and slept. Before daylight, food was ready. They ate again, and then the woman disappeared, and the young man went on. At midday, he found food prepared for him. In the evening, he came to a hut and went in. He stirred the fire and watched the kettle. When the meat was cooked, he took the kettle off the fire and was about to eat a piece of meat when he heard a noise outside. Again, he forgot the chief's daughter, and when a woman called, "Are you asleep?" he didn't answer. "Can I come in?" asked she. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" asked he. "I came from the north." After a long time, Yellowbird said, "Come in." The woman came in laughing and said, "It grows harder and harder to get to you. Why is this?" "When I first came here," said Yellowbird, "people attacked me. I thought they had come back." The woman laughed. She knew why he didn't remember her. The next morning, while they were eating, she said, "At midday you will come to an opening and a long flat. The flat is guarded by women. Just before midday, you will find food ready. After eating, creep up to the edge of the opening and watch. If the women are in groups, run to a large hickory tree on the opposite side of the flat. When in the middle of the flat, call out, "Gawee, gawee, I'm bound to run away." Yellowbird started. Just before midday, he came to a fire and found meat cooking. He took the kettle off, cooled the meat, and ate as fast as he could, and then he hurried along. Exactly at midday, he came to the edge of an opening and saw women sitting around here and there in groups. They were eating. He saw the hickory tree and ran toward it. No one noticed him. Then he came to the middle of the flat. He shouted, "Gawee, gawee, I'm bound to run away." The women, who were of the white heron family, sprang up and ran after him. They almost overtook him before he reached the woods on the other side of the opening. The chief's daughter was there to encourage and praise him. She said, "I shall come to you tonight for the last time." He left her and continued his journey. At sunset, he saw a cabin, went in, and found food cooking. He poured the meat into a bark bowl and was ready to eat when he heard the rustle of dry leaves. He listened and thought, "The heron women are coming to kill me." This time the chief's daughter didn't rap. She called out, "I've come to visit you." Yellowbird seized a club, held it up ready to strike, and then said, "Well, come in." When he saw his wife, he sprang back and dropped the club. She said, "You were going to strike me." "I was not. I was trying to hit a mouse," said Yellowbird. The woman laughed. They ate and then laid down, but didn't sleep. They talked all night. The woman said, "This is the last time you will see me. Hereafter, another person will care for you. You must travel in the same direction. Your happiness is at the end of this trail." Before daylight, the chief's daughter cooked a large quantity of food. Food was always at hand. We are not told how it came to be there. While eating, she said, "Tomorrow at midday, you will come to a pond of bright water. On the bank, you will find a tree turned up by the roots. Go around the roots and pick up a bark basket that you will find there. Fill the basket with water and go on till you come to a village. The chief of that village has a great deal of wampum. Sell him the water for wampum. Then say that you'll leave the wampum in his care for a while. Take only one string. Stay a day and a night and then go on. After 3 days' travel, you will come to a wide opening. At the end of the opening, you will find a tree that shines. Pull up that tree, take it with you to the next village, and sell it to the chief. My protection ends here. I'll give you food for today's journey." When the food was ready, Yellowbird put the bundle on his back and he started. He traveled till hungry, then ate and went on again. At night he slept under a tree. At noon the next day, when looking for a resting place, he saw something so bright that he couldn't look at it. When near, he saw that it was water, and then he remembered what the chief's daughter had said. He found the basket and filled it. "This is strange water," thought he, but he traveled on, carrying the basket, first in one hand and then in the other, till he came to a village. He went to the chief's house, but men standing there wouldn't let him go in. "I must go straight on," said Yellowbird. "If you try to, we'll cut off your head," said the men. "It's the rule of the place." They pulled up long flint knives that were sticking in the ground and were about to cut off his head when the chief called out, "Let the man come in." Where did you come from? Asked the chief. From the north. How far is your place from here? It takes many days to go there. Do you know a man whose name is Daddy Longlegs? Yellowbird hung his head in thought. Then a voice seemed to say to him, Raise your head and tell him. The man asks about is the father of the woman who has protected you so long, your own father-in-law. Yellowbird raised his head and said, I know that, chief. I came from his village. Do you know a man called Inchworm? I know him. He is my father. Do you think you will ever see him again? I do not. If you do, carry him this message. His mother died here 2 days ago. When Yellowbird showed the shining water, the chief said, I have wanted to find this water. I will give you many strings of wampum for it. Where did you get it? From the pond of brightness, not far from here. The chief and Yellowbird went to that pond, and when they came back, the chief said, I am glad that you are Inchworm's son. He and I are old friends. The next morning, Yellowbird said to the chief, I am going away, and I want to leave in your care the wampum you have given me for the bright water. I will take but one string now. Very well, said the chief, and he gave him one string. The young man continued his journey. The first night he slept when darkness overtook him. The second night he slept in a hollow tree. The third night he camped in a hole in the rocks. The fourth morning he had gone but a short distance when he came to an opening in the forest and saw just above a shining tree. When he came to the tree, he pushed it over, then picked it up, put it across his shoulder, and went on till he came to a village. He went to the chief's house and stood outside till the chief called to him to come in. Who are you and why have you come? Asked the chief. I have come to sell you this tree, said Yellowbird. I will give you wampum for that tree. I will give you my daughter and still more wampum if you will go with me to the place where you found the tree. Yellowbird agreed, and the two went to the place, and in the hole where the tree had been, they found bright dirt and stones. The chief said, There are men who call these the eye-breaker stones. Yellowbird married the chief's daughter. After a while, he said to her, I want to go to my father's village. I will go with you, said the woman. They started. When they came to the flat guarded by the heron women, they stole to the middle of the flat, then called out, Gawee, Gawee, we are bound to run away. And they got to the opposite side of the flat before the herons overtook them. When Yellowbird came to his father's home, neither his father nor his mother knew him. His mother said, Our house is too poor for you. I went out of it to work for the chief, said the young man. Then the mother recognized her son and was glad to see him. The young man gave his father a string of wampum and said, Buy food with it and get men to make me a bark house. When the house was finished, Yellowbird opened the door and threw in a string of wampum. Then he closed the door and went away. The next morning, there were a great many strings of wampum in the house. They had come from his father-in-law's house. After many moons, a runner came to notify Yellowbird that a woman who lived on an island in a lake wanted him to come to her. and said that if he didn't come, he would lose his head. Yellowbird was grieved, but he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave his wife and children. But that night he started toward the south, running as fast as he could. When he came to the edge of the lake, he said, "Now is the time to show my power to run on water." He started and he ran on the water as fast as he had on land. When he was near the middle of the lake, he bent his head down, didn't look forward. The woman on the island made him do this. When she found that he was coming on the water, she threw a pebble, telling it to go straight in front of him, of the man, and become a rock so high and long that he couldn't pass over it or go around it. Yellowbird, with head bent down, was running very fast. He struck the rock, fell back in the water, and was drowned. High waves rolled up and carried him in the direction from which he had came, and toward night his body was thrown on the shore. The Ancient of Bears came, looked at the body, and said, "This man is like the brother of Turtle, the man who always says, 'If my brother is destroyed, I will put an end to this world. I must bring this man to life.'" The Ancient of Bears worked over Yellowbird, used all of his power, and at last brought him to life. "You are alive," said Bear when Yellowbird opened his eyes. "Now you must go east to the end of the world. Your brother lives there. You must pacify him. If you don't, he will destroy us. Take one of my teeth. It will help you to go quickly. You must hurry, for your brother is angry. He thinks that someone has killed you." While they stood talking, they heard a great roar, and far off in the east they saw a column of fire shoot up and spread out over the country. "Hurry," said the Ancient of Bears. "If you don't, he will destroy us." Yellowbird ran, and his speed was so great that he seemed to fly. When he came to the edge of the world where the fire was, he saw a dark figure pushing its head forward. "My brother," called he, "I want you to stop being angry. I am alive." "If you are my brother," said Turtle, "you must sing our war song and cross the world 4 times. The young man ran to the end of the world and back to his brother. The force of the flame coming up from below the edge of the earth began to diminish. He ran a second time and back. The flame was dying down. When he came back and forth the 4th time, the fire was out. Turtle said, "Thank you, brother. Now I want you to tell me where the thing is that I gave you long ago." "Where did you give it to me? What was it?" "I gave it to you when you were born." "Maybe my mother is keeping it for me," said Yellowbird. "I'll go and get it." "Have you anything to help you run faster than you do now?" asked Turtle. "I have not." "I'll give you the power to go as fast that as soon as you think of a place, you will be there. And you will have the power of turning yourself into anything you like." He gave him a small piece of something like flesh and said, "When you want to use this, put it in your mouth. Now go as fast as you can." Yellowbird put the thing in his mouth and started. Right away, he was at his father's house. And going in, he asked his mother, "Have you anything that my brother gave me?" Long ago? I have, said she. Here it is. I have never thought of it till now, and she gave him a tiny hand. Taking the hand, Yellowbird went back to his brother, who, when he saw the hand, said, "You are my brother. Now we will go to the woman on the island. You will go ahead, and I will follow. If I overtake you, I will cut off your head, for that will increase your speed." They started, and soon the elder brother began to gain on the younger. When he was about to overtake him, Yellowbird changed to a deer and shot ahead. The elder brother changed to a deer and had almost caught up when the younger brother became an elk and ran away from the deer. They held on in this way. Whenever Yellowbird neared his brother, the latter changed into something, and right away the elder brother changed too. When they came to the edge of the lake, Yellowbird turned into a bass and disappeared in the water. The elder brother became a bass too. At the opposite bank, Yellowbird was an eel. The eel touched land and became a man and called, "Stop, brother. I give up. You have beaten me. The woman who sent for you is chief of a village not far from here. An enormous water monster is destroying her people. She wants you to kill the monster. When you reach her village, I will be there." Yellowbird came to the village and went toward the chief's house, but two men stood in his way. When they refused to let him pass, he drew out his basswood knife and cut off their heads. He went into the house and said to the chief, "I am angry, for it has cost me much labor to come here. What do you want?" "I want you to destroy a monster that is killing off my people. He makes rain come, and he can bring water out of the lake to any place where he wants to kill a person. When the person is dead, the water falls back. Whomever the water touches, it kills. If you destroy this monster, you shall be chief in my place." Early in the morning, Yellowbeard and the chief started for the lake. The villages were far apart. When they came to the last village, the woman said, "The lake is close by. I will stay here in the village. I don't want Muckworm to know that we are here. He is a bad man." While they were talking, rain began to fall. The woman was frightened. "This will kill me," said she. "It is nothing," said Yellowbird, and he went through the village and into a forest. Just before coming to an opening, he heard a whisper. He looked on all sides but could see no one. Again he heard someone whisper, and turning, he saw his brother. "Now," said the brother, "you must use all the power I have given you. The only way to destroy the monster is to go to the lake and cut off its head. Bring its heart, tongue, and claws away with you." Yellowbird went to the lake. The place where the lake had been was covered with sand. There was no water except in the center where there was a hollow. In that hollow lay an enormous beaver asleep. Yellowbird cut the monster open, took its heart, tongue, and claws, and ran for his life. As he reached the forest, down came the monster. It leaped toward Yellowbird and barely missed him. Turtle took the heart and pounded it into jelly. Beaver spoke then to the brothers and said, "You have great power. You have overcome and destroyed me. Beaver went back to the hollow in the sand, and as he went, the forest moved up on both sides and occupied the place where the lake had been. Turtle said to his brother, "Keep the claws, but give the tongue to the chief as proof that you have destroyed the monster." The woman made Yellowbird chief in her place and became his wife. Yellowbird changed to an eagle. His new wife was an eagle. He went high in the air, and when he came to the ground, he was at his old home with his wife and children. One day he sat very still as though listening. All at once he said, "Off in the west, people are crying. I must find out what is troubling them." The next morning, Yellowbird started off. He traveled all day and at night crawled into a hollow tree. Soon a voice asked, "What would you do if Whirlwind came?" "I would be pleased." The speaker went away, and soon Yellowbird heard heavy wind and rain coming from the south. Whirlwind leveled the trees to the ground, struck the tree Yellowbird was in, raised it up and carried it away, whirled it over and over, played with it. Yellowbird got impatient. It was almost morning. Still he was whirling through the air. At last the tree fell into the sea and was torn to pieces. Yellowbird lay on one of the boughs. He fastened 2 or 3 boughs together and sat on them as on a raft. The water rolled up big waves. "My raft will go to pieces and I'll be drowned," thought he. Someone laughed and said, "You are a fool. You don't think of me even when you are in trouble. You know that I am always behind you, waiting to hear you say, 'I wish my brother were here. Sit on my back, I'll carry you ashore.'" When they reached shore, Turtle asked, "Where is what I gave you?" "I have lost it," said Yellowbird. "No, you haven't." When Yellowbird found that he thought he had lost, he traveled on it till he came to a place where the earth troubled people. It became soft, heaved up, and rolled over their homes. Then Yellowbird said to himself, "My brother, I wish you were here." That minute Turtle was at his side. "I thank you," said he, "for thinking of me. The people here do wrong. They'll kill and eat one another. If they will cease doing that, they will have no more trouble." Yellowbird sent a runner to tell the people to assemble, and when they had come together, he said, "You kill and eat one another. If you will promise to stop doing this, I will tell the earth to keep still. Yonder is a great forest in which there are wild beasts. Kill those beasts and use their flesh for food." They promised to do as he told them. When Yellowbird was about to start for home, his elder brother stood by his side and said, "On your way home, pay no heed to anyone." Yellowbird traveled 4 days, and when he came to his own village, he had not been at home long when a runner came to notify him that a woman chief summoned him to be in her village at midday. He rose up and started. As soon as he was out of sight of the house, he changed to an eagle and flew along just high enough to see what was going on below. When he saw a lake, he dropped down to the edge of the water, turned to a duck, and swam to the opposite side. Then he changed to a man and traveled on till he came to the village. At the edge of the village was a cabin. In the cabin lived an old woman and her granddaughter. When Yellowbird came into the cabin, the old woman asked, "My grandson, which way did you come?" "From beyond the lake." "Why did you come?" "The chief of the village sent for me. I came because I couldn't help coming." "My grandson, I pity you," said the old woman. "When our chief hears of a man who has power, she sends for him and gives him to a serpent that lives in the lake." "Well," said Yellowbird, "if I am overpowered, your chief and all of her people will be destroyed. My brother will come and punish your chief." At midday, Yellowbird went to the chief's house. When he saw the chief, he said, "I have come. What do you want? I am angry, for you called me from my work. I want you to kill a snake that is destroying my people. If you can kill it, I will make you chief in my place. You can try now, for at midday the snake comes out of the lake." As Yellowbeard went toward the lake, the water began to rise, and soon the snake appeared. As it lay on the water, it was the height of a man. When it reached the shore and came toward Yellowbird, he turned to run. The snake caught him by the feet and drew him into its throat to the arms, but the man stretched out his arms and saved himself from going down. The snake went into the water. The water moved away, piled up on both sides, and left the snake on the bottom of the lake on dry land. Then over his head somewhere, Yellowbird heard his brother laugh and say, "My brother, you are a fool. When you saw the snake coming, you should have thought of me. Exert yourself." Yellowbeard pulled and easily got loose. Then he ran between the walls of water, the snake close to his heels. When he reached the bank, the water closed up. The elder brother threw a white flint stone at the snake's head, and the snake rolled over dead. The water heaved up till it reached the village, then it receded. Yellowbird went to the chief and said, "I've killed the snake." She thanked him and said, "Now you are chief in my place." But she was not pleased. Yellowbird went to the lake, turned to a duck, and swam out a good distance. Then he changed to an eagle and soon was at home. Yellowbird remained with his wife and children till a runner came with a message from the chief of the village where he had killed the beaver. She said, "Be here tomorrow at midday." Yellowbird did not change his form, but he ran in the air till he came to the lake. He was running over the lake, but near the water when he struck against an invisible object and was thrown back. He rose again and ran swiftly, and before he could stop, he was in a tangle of grapevines. He bounded back and fell. He was terribly angry, and as he rose up, he said, "Why should she send for me and then try to prevent my coming?" He reached Eagle's house, rushed in and said to her, "I am here and I will punish you." He seized the woman by the hair and cut off her head. Then he started for home. When well on the way, he met a beautiful, smiling woman who asked, "May I go with you?" "Don't bother me," said Yellowbird. "I am traveling." Rest a while, said the woman. I will not stop. If you speak to me again, I will cut off your head. Oh, stop and talk, begged the woman. Yellowbird turned and, seizing the woman by the hair, cut off her head. Then he went on till he came to his own village. One day after Yellowbird had been at home a long time, he heard a terrible noise, and going out, he saw that the earth was cracking open here and there. It cracked more and more, opened great ditches. All at once, a man appeared in the air and said, "You are frightened. You think you and your people are going to die. You will not. Follow me." Then Yellowbird rose in the air, and the two traveled southward, followed by all of Yellowbird's people. As they looked back, they saw the village where Yellowbird had been sink out of sight and water rise up there. Then the head of Turtle came from under the water, and he called out, "Gawee, gawee! This is the kind of man I am." The guide, whom Yellowbird and his people were following, said, "Your brother is angry because you killed the eagle woman. To show his power, he has destroyed everything." They traveled on till the air was fragrant. They saw beautiful ripe berries, and then houses where people lived. One house was larger than the others. The guide said, "The man of controlling power lives there." They went on till they came to a village that Yellowbird recognized. It was a village. The guide said, "Now you are at home and safe." The people went into their houses and found everything, as it seemed to them exactly as they had left it. But this village was above the blue. Their guide was the man of the blue. Yellowbird, though he was called after his dog, was not a bird. He was an inchworm. His first wife was Grasshopper. The end. How about that for a story?
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. That was a long one.
The Adventures of Inchworm.
Yes, inchworm. And I thought for sure he was a bird or something else, but an inchworm.
Yeah, well, that was the name of his dog, who was actually a bird.
Yeah,
so,
a bird.
And he was called that simply because that's what he called his dog. But, to the point, though, how about that for a story, eh?
That's right. Absolutely right. Yeah, and again, inchworm cuts off a lot of heads. How about that? Oh, always cutting off heads. Always cutting off heads. What's up with that? He cut off that lady's head. And, "I'll cut your head. If you do this, we'll cut your head off." Always threatening.
Yeah, and there was something in this story, if I cut off your head, you'll go faster or something. It was like, what?
Yeah, I didn't understand that one. Cut off your head, you'll go faster. Supposed to be using an inchworm. So, but anyway. Yeah, I get it.
I don't. Running off, but they always, there are some of the stories, don't go north. Have you noticed that? Some of the ones I've read in the past, well, you can go to the south or the east or the west, but don't go north. And It's interesting that he came out of the north, as
Yep.
stories go, versus going to the north. He went south and kept going south and kept going south and kept going south. But you know, the idea, you know, as I'm reading it, I'm having these thoughts like, I wonder how this goes. Well, can't think about that because I got to read the story. I don't want to lose my place. So while we've been yapping, I've pulled 2 cards.
Okay, what do we got?
And we have, the first one is bear.
Ooh, yeah, we were talking a lot about bear. Bear oil.
Yeah, well, he got eaten, but you know.
Bear got eaten. Bear stew, piece of bear
Got
meat.
banged on the head with a rock, straightened out, and died. You know, like boing, you know, can almost see that as a cartoon. Bear is introspection. Now, I've pulled 2 cards and both of them are upside down for whatever that means. Bear, invite me into the cave where silence surrounds the answers you gave. The strength of bear medicine is the power of introspection. It lies in the West on the great medicine wheel of life. Bear seeks honey or the sweetness of truth within the hollow of an old tree. In the winter, when the ice queen reigns and the face of death is upon the earth, bear enters the womb cave to hibernate, to digest the year's experience. It is said that our goals reside in the West also. To accomplish the goals and dreams that we carry, the art of introspection is necessary. That rhymes. To become like bear and enter the safety of the womb cave, we must attune ourselves to the energies of the eternal mother and receive nourishment from the placenta of the great void. The great void is the place where all solutions and answers live in harmony. They live in harmony with the questions that fill our realities. If we choose to believe that there are many questions to life, then we must also believe that the answers to those questions reside within us. Each and every being has the capacity to quiet the mind, enter the silence, and know. Now, upside down. If you have drawn bear reversed, your internal dialogue may have confused your perception of your true goals. In seeking answers or advice from others, you have placed your own feelings and your own knowing aside. That's interesting. The time has come to regain your authority. For no one knows better than yourself what is proper and timely for your evolution. Reclaim the power of knowing. Find joy in the silence and richness of the mother's womb. And with winter coming on, you know, hibernation. Allow the thoughts of confusion to be laid to rest as clarity emerges from the West. Nurturing your dreams as the Earth Mother nourishes us all. Bear in the contrary position is teaching you that only through being your own advisor can you attain your true goals. Anything less than the doing of that which gives you the most joy is denial. I want to read that again. Anything less than the doing of that. Wait, anything less than the doing of that, I'm sorry, which gives you the most joy is denial. So, you know, if you're not doing what really makes you happy, you're denying yourself, okay? To achieve happiness, You must know yourself. To know yourself is to know your body, your mind, and your spirit. Use your strengths to overcome your weaknesses and know that both are necessary in your evolution. Journey with Bear to the quietness of your cave and hibernate in silence. Dream your dreams and own them. Then in strength you will be ready to discover the honey waiting in the tree of life. Now the next one in the two that I've pulled tonight, this is Owl, number 21. Interesting, we've got a bird and we've got a bear. I'm looking, I'm almost there. There it is. Deception. Ooh, yeah. Owl magic omens Timon's face. Does the truth emerge? Casting out deception. Silent flight, sacred medicine bird. Owl medicine is symbolically associated with clairvoyance and astral projection and magic, both black and white magic. Owl is called the night eagle. Owl hunts its prey at night. Owl sits in the east, the place of illumination. Now that's interesting. Bear's in the west and owl's in the east. So two opposite sides of the medicine wheel here. Since time immemorial, humanity has been afraid of the dark and the unseen. Conversely, night is owl's friend. Owl is oftentimes the medicine of sorcerers and witches. If owl is your medicine, you'll be drawn to magical things. Is it any wonder that in many cultures, owls is a symbol for wisdom? This is because owl can see that which others cannot, which is the essence of true wisdom. Where others are deceived, owl sees and knows what is there. Now, in the upside down reverse position, if it's in your cards today, you have been greatly deceived. Ooh. By either yourself or by another. Perhaps witchcraft or black magic is being used against you. Be careful. Or maybe you're using it. If so, stop that mess. The message is to befriend the darkness inside yourself. Look deeply, and soon the bright light of dawn will illuminate you. Then ask yourself what you are in the dark about. And by whom are you being deceived? Or by what? Have you lied to yourself about something? Are you being greatly deceived or just slightly deceived? Owl tells you to keep an eye on your property and your loved ones. Remember that owl is always asking who. So that's interesting. So bear's telling you to be introspective, and owl's telling you that you may have been deceived. Well, we've all been deceived in this day and age. But, check yourself and see if this applies to you. But, it's always good to we make friends with people. We need to watch our backs, You never know when somebody else is going to deceive you. And of course, we're being deceived by the news every day. So, take it with a grain of salt, my friends. I hope you liked the story. It was sort of a long one. And I hope these cards applied to you in some way. And as always, I want to say that, always remember to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And cheers. I love you. Okay, that's my segment.
Well,
Segue into Robert.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
They're talking that right now we're in the beaver moon. It's all about, that's what they've been saying. This is a beaver moon. The full moon is a beaver moon.
Yeah, and it sure is. It's a weird one out there.
Yeah, so look out, look up. It's a beaver moon tonight. I guess there's a deer moon and stuff, but and other ones too. But this is the beaver moon. So whatever it's looking like, it's a beaver moon. I thought that was interesting.
Yep.
Anyway, Chloe's in the house. F Kitty and Jeannie. I think she probably headed to bed by now. Anyway, let's see who else. Lucky Stone. Oh, Max Vision was here. Elderberry. Witchy Moon. Thank you all for coming and joining me tonight. Great night. Great thanks to all of yous for your participation. And I hope that we can all make this world a better place. Because, you know, the knowledge that we've gained here tonight, the good stories, the good friendships, that's what it's all about. You know, regardless of what's going on in the world, it's always good to just get here and share and have some you and me time. Right? You got a show tonight?
Maybe, yeah. But one thing I want to add to that, you know, is like, you know, with all the stress and strife in the world, we can't give up. We got to keep working at it, you know? And it's like, well, I don't know, and we're never going to get there, and we're never going to get this. Well, if you got that kind of attitude, you know, so we got to stay at least a little positive and understand that, you know, if we keep trying, we might actually succeed, you know? But if people keep, you know, this attitude of, well, it'll never work, we'll never have peace, we're all gonna, you know, mamby-pamby. But so, you know, in the long stream of things, you got to believe that at least it could be possible. So, yes. Well, it might be, no matter how remote it might be, keep it in your thoughts that, yep, it might, you know, it could happen. It could happen.
Well,
it could happen.
That's how it always goes. People get sick of war, and then they want peace, and then they want.
It could happen.
They get mad, and they have war, and then it goes back and forth and back and forth. So what, you know, everything comes around. It's a cycle. So we just got to go through this, and we'll come out the other side better than ever. Because you know why? Because you want to be the frequency you'll want to receive. Everyone, love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.